Hello everyone and welcome back to the Grumpy Surfer podcast. I'm the Grumpy Surfer and your host, Ads Lyson. Before we get on today, I have a couple of codes for you, or discount codes for you as per usual. So for 15% off your Northcore outdoor and surfing gear, use the code GrumpyPod15 to get 15% off your purchase at the checkout. Please use Northcore gear. I've got their leashes, I've got one of their bags, a couple of their robies, and it's super robust gear. It's amazing. It hasn't let me down now in over a year, so please get amongst it. And likewise, the guys at Braw Surf have also given the podcast listeners a 20% discount of their merchandise. So if you go to the checkout at brawsurf.co.uk and use the code, capital letters again, Grumpy Surfer, and it'll also give you a discount at the checkout of 20%. Also go to their YouTube channel as well, Braw Surf, and there's some amazing content there, especially from the British Championships and British Nationals that was held there earlier on this year. Okay, today's podcast then, my guest is living the life of Riley and living the dream which we all travelling surfers we would dream of, living the van life. He's been travelling across Europe over the last couple of years and now he's into Eastern Europe in Georgia. He's also an entrepreneur and owns a coffee company called the Green Beret Coffee Company and has also just started a podcast about vegans, which is pretty interesting. If you go and give it a go, it'll all be in the podcast notes within your podcast provider that I'll put in there at the end of the show. To add to these accolades, he's also a Royal Marines Commando veteran and he used to run on the close protection circuit in Iraq and Afghanistan. So please enjoy my conversation with Rus McDonagh. Rus McDonagh, welcome to the podcast.
Dude, what an absolute pleasure. It's an honour to be asked to be on it, to be honest. I've been waiting for ages. And I was like, when's this guy ever going to ask me? And you obviously got desperate. And in the end, you asked me. So I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, everybody else fell out. So that's why I asked for you.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I get it. It's not the first time.
So it's Rus, but it's also AKA the Nomadic Veteran, AKA Green Beret Coffee, AKA a podcast called Those Vegan Veterans Podcast as well. So, mate, you've got fingers in pies everywhere, and I'd say quite an established entrepreneur.
Yeah, thanks, dude. Wow, I don't think anyone's ever called me an established entrepreneur before, so you're the first for that. Yeah, dude, I'm just trying to... these are things which I'm really kind of passionate about, and when you're passionate about these things, I think it's easier to throw yourself into, but it's like I said to you before the podcast started, that the podcast I've just started is really new. So the fact you know about that, I'm turbo impressed with. So yeah, good effort.
Well, like I said, I do lots of research and even into the weeds of asking people about you and what are some stories about you.
Oh, let's not air those ones, shall we? But yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. That's probably for the best, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so start off with 3 questions then. So, well, I've already nailed one. How are you? Where are you? And what have you done today?
Okay, so I am currently in Georgia, the country, not the state, over in the eastern part of Europe, in a place called Tbilisi. So it's the capital city. And what have I done today? I have done very, very little. So basically, even though we are in a Airbnb at the moment. So normally we do live the hashtag van life. We have sort of stopped into Tbilisi for a little bit of time to get an Airbnb, concentrate on our work projects and that, because it's a lot easier to do when you're in like a bricks and mortar building and that. But the water's been off all day. So we've just kind of stayed at home, done a little bit of work, nothing crazy exciting, which, is, if you watch YouTube, you probably think van lifers are always doing crazy shit. Today, we've just literally done a bit of work and I've been waiting to talk to your good self, obviously.
Well, I feel very humbled to know that, you've just spent your morning waiting for me.
Counting down the hours, mate. I was like, oh my God. It was like Christmas Eve.
So I was going to cover the Nomadic Veteran and the van life YouTube stuff that you've got going on at the moment a little bit later, but I think it's quite pertinent since like you're talking about it and you're in Georgia. So how did all of the van life and the YouTube channel come about? Like, where did the idea come from?
All right, yeah. So we'll rewind a few years. So I'll keep this short and sweet as best I can. So basically, when I left the Corps back in '08, I did what most bootnecks did, and I went straight onto the circuit, and I worked the circuit for close to 10 years. In those 10 years, as with most guys, I tried to leave that industry and ended up getting sucked back in. And for all the sort of like money we were earning, and we were on some good wages at the time, I was never getting to see my missus. I was like, man, I get to see you for like 3, maybe sometimes even 2 months of the year. This is not a way to live our life. I miss my dogs. I wasn't really seeing the house, which I was paying for every month and that. And I managed to get a Gucci little role on a commercial CP, working for an ultra high net worth client, banter between Monaco, Saint-Tropez, London, all that good stuff. And I was threaders, to be honest. I hated the job. It wasn't what I thought commercial CP was. I was threaders. And my missus sent me a link one day, and she went, "How about this?" And it was a link to a YouTube video. Or I think it was a YouTube video. It might have been an article. Basically, a girl called Pam the Van, and she sold up, and she moved into like a tiny little van, and she started traveling. And as soon as I watched it, and I was like, "Oh, this is gold. This could be something." And ever since then, we basically thought there's more to life than just working. You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm not dissing work, because now we still work and we work hard, but we wanted to live life more on our terms than me spending 9 months of the year away. And then what coincided with that was I was back on a leave, and we watched a documentary called Minimalism on Netflix. And it's basically these two guys, and they talk about their journey of how they went through the corporate structure of trying to gain promotion, earn a higher wage, and they weren't happy. They were really threaders with the way their life was turning out. And they found minimalism by getting rid of all this unnecessary crap. The whole thing which goes with materialism of always constantly chasing more, chasing the newest phone, chasing the newest car, bigger house, etc. And I watched that, and it blew my mind. And I was like, oh, I think these guys have nailed it. And from there, we decided that we would sell most of our possessions, which ended up us selling our house. Like I said, 95% of our possessions. We moved into a van, and we started traveling Europe, August 2019. And it's been a hell of an adventure so far, to be honest. Like full-time van dwelling, #van life. And the one thing I wanted to do was I thought, you know what, I'll give this YouTube malarkey a bit of a bash as well. Seems like any Tom, Dick, and Harry can do it. Turns out it's quite hard. Yeah, and we have a lot of fun on the YouTube. I'm not as much in depth as a lot of YouTubers will be with their van life. A lot of people tend to show every nook and cranny of their life. I do show quite a lot, but there is a lot of aspects which we keep private, and it's more so if we can help people on their van life journey. Recently, we've been crossing international borders during a pandemic, and people are like, "How are you doing this?" So, we'll put videos up there. This is how it is. This is how you do it. This is how to make your van life journey easier, as in like where to find water, where to get rid of your black waste. And you know what? And it seems that people seem to enjoy watching us, and they get good quality sort of information from it. So yeah, I'm a YouTuber as well now. Jeez.
Influencer and YouTuber.
Let's be easy with the influencer, but yeah, just some middle-aged guy trying to crack it. Yeah.
Well, mate, you seem to be doing quite well with it, because you've got 4,500 subscribers to your channel, and obviously people bounce in and out of those sort of things, much as they do with podcasts as well. And I think this day and age, especially with like the stay vacations, the nomadic life is almost kind of like it's a dream for people. But when I say like dream, people have always got sort of like these things that they want to do. But I think sometimes, like you've done, is that people get like captured in a bubble where they feel like they can't escape from it, and they've got to do this or they've got to do that, and they've got responsibilities where, look, if I'm perfectly honest, without sounding super harsh, if I had to, I could sell my house. I could just literally disappear into the ether, take my family with me, and you'd never see me again. I'd be happy with that. But I think some people feel like a little bit trapped with that too. So you having the courage to do that with your missus, okay, without sounding a little bit like negative, you know, you haven't got kids, you got a couple. Well, dogs are kids, aren't they? Really, let's be honest.
There are fur babies, yeah.
Yeah. So you know, having that sort of like courage to do that is quite an admirable quality, I think.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate you saying that. I think it all comes down to, yeah, I think you're right. Obviously, everyone's in different financial positions. Everyone's in, they've got different, you know, financial responsibilities, whether it be kids, whether they've got mortgages, you know, everyone's different. Ultimately, it just comes down to whether you, in my opinion, how bad do you want it? Are you willing to sacrifice what you've got? So we were very fortunate. We had a really lovely home. I know everyone says they've got a lovely home. We thought we had a lovely home, and it was very hard to sell it. You know, and that was one of the sacrifices we knew we had to make if we wanted to pursue this life. So, you know, people would come around when we're viewing the house, go, oh, you've got such a great home. Why are you selling this? Yeah, we've got a good life, but we wanted a great life. And it was, you know, and I did a YouTube video a couple of weeks ago about why van life won't make you happy. And it's true. It's about it with this lifestyle. And as great as it is, there comes a lot of things you sacrifice, like a physical community. Like, you know, we don't see our friends and family, and that's through our choice because we want to travel. Also a case of we can't go to clubs like, you know, jiu-jitsu. We don't form relationships, like in-depth relationships with people because we're never in one place for a long enough time. So that's a sacrifice. I know some people are really close to their mums and dads and they need to see them every day. Well, van life isn't going to be for you then, you know, because you're not going to see your mum and dad. So there's, as with every lifestyle, mate, there's pros and cons, and this one, you know, it suits us for now, to be honest.
Do you feel being able to travel through Europe and, you know, through Turkey and all the other places that you've traveled through to get to where you are now, having the background of experience of being in the military and going away and doing the CP stuff and having sort of like that confidence behind you that if something did hit the fan, you'd be able to deal with it in a different way, whereas like just Joe Bloggs, you know, Mr. Smith, who decides to lift up with his missus to go somewhere, they'd probably feel a little bit apprehensive about it too.
Yeah, I think being in the military, it leads so well into whatever you choose to do after you leave the military. You've got a certain set of skills, you know, and one of them is 9 times out of 10, you've been in some really shit situations. And when you're pursuing something after that in civic life, you can 9 times out of 10 just kind of go, this isn't that bad. You know, our brains are wired to make it like, shit, this is really bad. And it's if you can take that condor moment and be like, hang on, take a step back. It's not that bad. Take a deep breath and you figure it out. So, you know, and don't get me wrong, traveling through Turkey, I had my misconceptions about Turkey as well. I'd never been to Turkey apart from the airport when transiting through. I was worried. I'm not worried. I was apprehensive, should I say, about living van life in Turkey. And again, travel has just opened my eyes up. The Turkish people, I've not met a more friendly nationality than the Turks. Absolutely unbelievable. And the country itself, again, wow. Well, you know, people on YouTube are like, Russ, you got to shut up about Turkey, man. You're on about it all the time, but it is literally a fantastic country. It's got almost everything apart from surfing, but it's got, you know, mountains. It's got, you know, Cappadocia. It's got great beaches. It's got everything you want. So yeah, to answer your question, which is a long-winded answer, I think so, mate. I think, and luckily, you know, my missus keeps a cool head as well. So 2 of us together, it's worked out all right for us so far, to be honest.
Yeah, I spun a little story on a previous podcast. When I got married, we got married in Sri Lanka, and at the time the Tamil Tigers were quite rife, and we landed in the airport, and literally the day we landed, the Tamil Tigers had basically drove a vehicle-borne IED into the airport, which is basically where the army base is. So when we landed, there was army soldiers everywhere, and I was like, well, my whole family were coming down: my mum, my dad, my sister, her mum and dad and family all getting taxi driven down to the hotel that we were in. Anyway, at the end we were going to do our honeymoon in the Maldives because it's literally just like an hour's flight, literally, in the Indian Ocean. And on the way back, they'd done something different, but done something else to the airport. But at night time, when we drove in a taxi, it was all, well, obviously it's all different, isn't it? And all the blockades were up, all the big concrete bollards were everywhere. And I hadn't done any research into the Tamil Tigers or soldiers' uniforms or anything like that. Like, you'd have imp briefs and stuff in the military, wouldn't you? So as we were driving along, I just felt like goosebumps going up the back of my neck, and I was like, when you see those combat indicators, I was just like, I said to the missus, look, if anything happens, I've unlocked the doors, hold my hand, and we're gone. Just keep going. And I'm getting goosebumps now talking about it, yeah. But that was obviously on the tail end of an incident actually happening. So, the stuff going on in Turkey, is on the eastern border, isn't it? So unless you're like driving in towards it, you're probably not going to experience any of that anyway. So your misconceptions would be different.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So, when we travel, because obviously, we are in Georgia, so we had to travel through that part of Turkey. As you drive that way, the military presence is a lot more ramped up. There's a lot more military checkpoints you go through. One thing which I found out very quickly was whenever they stopped us, they were like, "Where are you from?" And I kept saying UK, and I think they were saying Ukraine, and they were kind of like, "Whoa!" And then obviously I picked up on it pretty quick, and I was like, "Oh no, England! I'm from England." And then we've met other van lifers who in Turkey, and they literally crossed down into Kurdistan. I was like, is that the smartest thing to be doing? Like, kind of going down there, you've got the risk reward factor there. Like, yeah, it'd be cool as shit, but a single, a young guy could be, misconstrued as something else. I was like, that's not for me. But yeah, we didn't see anything, mate. And again, I can't say enough good things about Turkey, to be honest. But the one thing I will say as well is, you're absolutely right with the whole combat indicators. You just get that funny feeling that something's done. My Mrs. Gibbo, I'm always, she always keeps saying, you're trying to teach me things on the sly about what to do. The one thing I've drilled into my missus is movement is life. If something happens, just keep moving. I don't want you to ever stop, and I'm always dropping little things, not because I'm like trying to be like this superhero guy. I'm just like, look, if something happens, I'm not there. I need you to do this. And she's picking it up quite well. So, I've heard the Corps letting chicks in now. So, I might see if she wants to join the Corps or something.
Yeah, none of them are passed yet, though.
Oh, well, there you go. My missus might be the first one, but, it was only recently I found out that they were actually joining. So it's all news to me, dude.
Well, you need to get her up on the top of the highest feature and start cracking some resections with her and stuff like that.
Fair one. If she's learning map reading off me, dude, God help her.
Well, you got an iPhone now anyway, so you don't really need a map and compass. Not old school, is it? GPS.
Is this what they're giving to nods these days? Is it iPhone 11 as soon as they join training? Like, yeah, just use this, lads.
Pretty much just giving them a GPS, I think.
All right, okay.
Let's get a little bit of background on you, mate. So, where did you grow up?
Okay, yep. So, I was actually born in Zimbabwe back in many moons ago. So, I'm 39. So, that was 1982. Grew up in South Africa till I was 7, 8, 9, something like that. I can't remember too much. My parents moved over to the UK, obviously, to give me a better life. And then we bounced around the UK, North Wales, all over the shop, mate, until finally we kind of stopped in a place called Ozer Street. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's about a 20-minute drive north of Shrewsbury. Went to school. Happy days. Didn't do very well at school, obviously. And then what was the plan? It was always to just join the Corps, and then I joined the Corps, and the rest of, they say, is history. So yeah, I was very nomadic as a kid, you might say.
Yeah, I was going to say that. And what was your influence in joining the Corps? I always ask people this, and they give lots of different answers.
All right, yeah. So basically, I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I was growing up. I don't think many kids do. I think there's a lot of pressure to, when you're like 14, to be like, what are you doing for the rest of your life? And I didn't have a clue. I wasn't the most academic kid. I love PE the most, obviously, as most bootlegs do, you know. And then my mum and dad were always like, you need to decide. I knew college really wasn't for me, not because I couldn't get in. I probably could have, you know, got in. I could have gone down the whole uni route, but I just kind of saw it in my eyes as a bit of a waste of time because I wasn't interested in it. And I was upstairs and I walked downstairs one day and my old man was watching a documentary on the Marines about lads going through training. And I came downstairs just as they were on the endurance course. And one of the nods had broken his leg, not like an open fracture, but he damaged it really badly. It was a broken leg and he cracked on. And he obviously came way outside the time, failed the endurance course, you know, and I can't remember what happened after that, but I remember watching that as a young lad thinking, fucking hell, these are the sort of guys I want to surround myself with. Do you know what I mean? I know that sounds quite Chad, but I don't want to be, I don't want to just be average. I want to be with these sort of guys who I can call my friends, my work colleagues. And after watching that, I was like, right, I'm going to join the Corps. I need to do this, and you know, and that's the story of how I wanted to become a Royal Marine, essentially.
Well, that documentary that you're talking about ended up being my training team.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So I bet they were a fun training team.
So much fun. No fear of God or anything like that going through me at all.
No, never. So yeah, it's funny how life worked, because if I hadn't have walked down stairs to get whatever it was, like a glass of water at that time, who knows how my life would have turned out. So it's pretty random. Maybe I was always destined to join the Corps, or maybe I could have ended up, who knows? I dread to think.
Where did you serve? What units did you serve in, and what were kind of like your career highlights before you left?
So I passed out of training. I went straight up to Kamach, or it turned into FPGRM by then. Yeah. I was with O Squadron. And it was all right. It wasn't, you know, we were then based at Helensburgh full time. It wasn't like you were based at Arbroath and then you just went to Helensburgh for going behind the wire. And I was a bit like, this is a bit gash, to be honest. I need to do something. And I remember going through training and going down pool, being with the LCs. I was like, this is super Gucci. I need to become an LC. And so I put my chit in to become an LC. At the time, there was a mega long waiting list. It was crazy. LC was one of the like the fashionable branch to be in. I put my chit in. Luckily, I got it within a year or something. I went down pool, become an LC, and from there on in, mate, I had a great time. I was very fortunate to be an RIT, so Raiding Instructional Troop down pool. I did I did a couple of what's the word I'm looking for? I spent a lot of time up Kamach again, basically, but as an LC, which was a lot more fun. I was in Emmerich, so basically I worked alongside SF, but on the boats side of things. So obviously that was a massive career high, because you get treated as an adult anyway in the Corps, but when you're then working there with that level of sort of like with guys, you're treated as a much more adult. It's like, right, that's your job, do it. I'm not gonna keep looking over your shoulder. Just make sure you do it and you do it well, and everyone's happy. And I love my time there. Yeah, obviously I did the liberation of Iraq, or invasion, liberation, whatever you want to call it, in 2003. Again, that was quite an experience. Yeah, you know, I probably had quite a tame time in the Corps compared to a lot of guys. But it was a great time. But I probably, and I massively enjoyed my time in the Corps. But if I'm being completely honest, I had a lot more fun once I went into the private sector. I left, like I said, I left the Corps. I went straight out to Iraq on the biggest contract there was, Aegis, and that was more fun for me. I got on a lot better. That was a job role which I really enjoyed a lot more. So yeah, the Corps was good, but when I left, it was the right time to leave. Do you know what I mean?
How long did you end up doing?
I did pretty much 8 years on the dot. So, you know, it wasn't a bad amount of time. It was fortunate because it was enough time to get a decent resettlement. So at the time there was a lot of, because every bootneck was leaving and they were doing, you know, CP courses for resettlement. I think there was a lot of talk of like, we need to try and slow this down. But fortunately, I managed to get in there. I did the rowing course out in South Africa, which was just at the time was like the gold standard. And that was another great experience being out there, actually, learning the job and that. So, and it all got paid for. So, it was time and the call was well worth that alone.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about courses that I kind of had a little flicker in my head about doing, but I don't know. There was just, it's like when you're a young lad, you read all these books about, people going outside and becoming, in inverted commas, mercenaries, and that's almost
Yeah.
kind of like, it's almost kind of like the dream life, really, isn't it? Because anybody that really joins the military, well, they should be thinking that they're going to war. It's one of my bugbears at the moment, but I'm not going to go into that because that's a fucking rabbit hole that we ain't getting out of.
Right.
So when you go to do something like that, the potential is always there to be in firefights. There's loads of action, and it's kind of almost like that film setting that you have, portrayed in your head a little bit. But then, there was just something inside me that decided that, what, I wasn't going to do that. Because I know a lot of lads, when I was on Herrick 5, when we came back, they'd seen more than enough firefights to last them a lifetime. Been in a lot of dodgy situations, and, what you're saying, those rowing courses came up, and the CP courses that were part of resettlement that actually ex-bootnecks were running, and they were running them at Lympstone as well. I think people just decided to bite their hands off pretty much, like what you did, which, should, for some people like yourself, bit their hand off and did it. So, fair play to you. And it's opened a whole new world to you now as well.
Yeah, you know what though? One of the reasons I did decide to leave as well, obviously it was my time to leave. I had like an up and down career anyway. I wasn't ever a yes man. I did speak my mind, and that sometimes doesn't go down very well. But one of the other reasons I did leave was because I was terrible with money. I was really, really bad with money, and I found myself in quite a fair bit of debt. And I also had to look at it from a long-term point of view. And I was like, no matter what I do in the core right now, promotion, whatever I decide to do, this is going to take an awful long time to dig myself out of this right now on this current wage structure. So that was another reason why I was like, and obviously when you're talking to lads who have already gone outside and they're saying, mate, I'm on this per day, I'm earning this per month, and you're like, you do the maths, and I was like, all right, I could get myself out of debt pretty quick here if I do this. And it, and I decided that was the right move for me. Yeah, and what can I say? The issue being is, I don't know if it's like what it's like now, is when you do go into that world. I went into that world and I said, right, I'm going to do 2 years max, and then I'm getting out. I'm going to get in there, I'm going to earn my money, I'm going to pay off a debt, I'm going to earn my money, and I'm going to get going into something else. And obviously it doesn't work out that way. You do become addicted to the money, you get addicted to the lifestyle. And it's that constant, like, one more rotation, one more. If I do one more rotation, how much? Oh, right, yeah, I'll do one more. I've got Christmas off. Well, I might as well work this and then get Christmas off and all that. And very quickly you get sucked into, like, that is your life, and that's all. And with that as well, without going off on it, you become accustomed to better things in life. So all of a sudden, you in a core, like, I couldn't even drive in a core, but I wanted to get a car and obviously get my driving license. And I was looking at Peugeot, 306s or something. All of a sudden, lads are earning a lot more money on the circuit, and they're not buying those anymore. They're buying Audi TTs, they're buying Audi A5s, and it's like, you don't. Yes, you need to reward yourself almost for the hard work you're doing, and it can get taken away in a heartbeat. But also, you get accustomed to that lifestyle, so you're going on business flights instead of just economy flights. You're buying £5,000-6,000 watches when it's like, yeah, you don't. And I'm guilty of it. Don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of it. But you don't need that shit. But because you're in that lifestyle, you don't want to give it up either. So you keep doing another rotation, and it's hard to get out.
Did you manage to get out before the arse fell out of it and people started to get really seen off?
Yes and no, really. Obviously, the money did drop once the US pulled out. So basically, what I was on was Project Matrix was DoD, was Corps of Engineers with the Yanks, brilliant wage, monthly wage, so it was salaried. As soon as that finished, everything kind of went over to the oil and gas industry. And at first, it was still very good wages. It was great, and then they soon realised that all these companies were just undercutting each other, and who were the ones who were going to suffer? It was the lads. And because obviously you still got an abundance of lads who are leaving the military going, well, these guys will be happy to do it for $200 a day. We don't need to pay this guy $250 because one, we don't really need his experience anymore, because oil and gas is, you can put a monkey in that job and he can do it. And that's no offense to lads doing it now, but it's true. You're a glorified, chauffeur, essentially. You take clients here, there, and everywhere. The security aspect is very much left. So they just kept saying, right, we can drop the wages. We can drop the wages. So I was very fortunate. I was still on okay money when I left. But again, that was a massive factor to I'm spending 9 months. It's a lot harder to be spending your time away from home if you're only earning $200 a day, as opposed to when you're earning $450 a day. It's justified when you're earning good money, because that's helping build your future. All of a sudden, when you're not earning that great of money, and remember, you're doing 2 months, 1 month off. So you've got to, it's not just, 8 weeks I've earned this much. No, you've got to take your salary and stretch it over 12 weeks. And all of a sudden it doesn't look as good then. So I was pretty lucky to get out when I did, to be honest.
Well, talking about highlights from the military, were there any sort of highlights that you took away from doing this circuit for so many years? There must have been some good trips that you went on.
What, on the circuit?
On the circuit, yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? I spent a lot of my time in Iraq, and I loved it, to be honest. Nothing stands out. I was very fortunate to be part of a team. We were Set 5, based in Baggers, and I was very lucky to be in a team which was mainly bootnecks and paras. So as you can imagine, it was just constant shit talking, giving each other shit, and it was an amazing experience. But part of that was when we always got tasked with the shittiest jobs. When you're going to places like Triangle of Death, it's because you're good, your team is on the ball. So there's no real highlights, as in we got to go places. That's definitely afterwards, when I was doing sort of ultra high net worth clients. When I was doing proper CP out there, it was just the lads. It was being with the lads. It was going on these shitty jobs and coming back knowing that you did your job really well. And I loved it, mate. And my miss has always said you always speak very fondly of that time, and I do. And she's like, is that bravado? Everybody still wants to. You see the movies, lads putting their chest rigs on, they're heading out, and you're like, oh yeah, I used to do that. It's not a bravado thing for me. It's I genuinely enjoyed that shit. Does that mean I want to do it now? Not really. I'm 39 years old, a couple of dodgy knees. I don't think that would work terribly well. But man, I loved those times. I thought they were brilliant. The whole thing was a highlight. Obviously, we had our ups and we had our down days as well. But generally, that experience, man, the lads I worked with, I loved it, dude.
So during that time, is that when you kind of started developing the ideas for, the Nomadic Veteran and the coffee company as well? Because you also own the Green Beret Coffee Company. So was that something you were kind of thinking about as you were coming to the tail end of that? Or was it after you'd finished and, you wanted to do something different?
Yeah, no, it was definitely coming towards the tail end. Like I say, the first few years of being in the CP world, I was as materialistic as they come. I was into it all. And I don't say that, proudly. If I look back on that time of Rus McDonagh and think, God, some of the things I said, I would slap him. It was ridiculous. My ego was through the roof, and it's something I'm probably quite ashamed of right now. But as we do self-development, as we grow as humans, and then, like I said, as that time came to an end, me and my wife were looking for something alternative. And one day we will settle down, but I don't think it'll ever be a conventional lifestyle. We did want to travel. We want to see the world. We want to do it on our terms. We want to create a lifestyle that makes us happy and that we can afford. So yeah, Nomadic Veteran was at the forefront, and obviously come with that is you have to earn money. There has to be an income. And for my birthday, in fact, a few years back in 2016, Mrs. I said, oh, I really want to get into coffee. Like, and she got me like a cafetiere. She got me some nice coffee. She got me a grinder, and she got me this massive book on coffee. And I loved it. And it was my wife's idea. And she went, God, you should do a coffee company one day. And I was like, laughed it off. It was like, yeah, whatever. And then I was still in security, didn't give it a second thought. And then I was on that ultra high net worth client on that contract. And the day before I was due to go back, I got a message saying, look, appreciate the hard work over the last 6 months, but we don't need you for the winter time. And it was that old saying, there's no security in security. And I was like, oh, okay, that's, brilliant. What do we do now? But because I've been so busy constantly with like working and other bits and pieces, I never had the time to sit down and actually look into it. And then obviously that gave me the opportunity to then do my research into like, how can we get this up and running? How, what a time to get this started. And did the research. Again, I think it was my wife again who came up with Green Beret Coffee Company. It's the excellence, you're proud of your time in the Corps and that. And I was like, yeah. And then it just started going from there, mate. And it's been something we've been working on ever since. And it goes hand in hand with the Nomadic Veteran, because we're a coffee company, which, we're not, we want, our tagline is fueling the adventurous. No matter what your adventure is, whether it's a weekend away or whether it's climbing Everest, man, we need to get people out there. It's not this materialistic rubbish that is about buying Gucci watches. It's about experiences over things. And that's something we're trying to push on with our coffee is like, look, we're quality premium coffee, but take it out on the ground with you, get it out, go climbing, go hiking, do whatever, take it down the beach, man, after a surf or whatnot, get out and enjoy life. And it's all about experiences for us. And that's what we're trying to push, create a community about that.
Well, it's delicious. I mean, I've bought quite a few.
You have
things off you, and I've recommended it to quite a few people, and it's really difficult. British people are terrible with feedback. They never give you any feedback. But you find that too. But the feedback I get from people, I'm like, oh, how did you find that? Like, yeah, they've bought 1, 2, 3 kilo packs, and they keep coming back. Hence, well, I haven't got a mug, but I don't know whether you can see it.
Is it a blue one? Is it a blue spotty mug?
It is. It's an invisible mug that's got your coffee in. My missus actually got it for me for Father's Day, which the Nomadic Veteran blend.
Do you know what we'll do? Oh, well, what a blend straight away. But you know what we'll do? Well, I will send you a mug, and from now on, you can enjoy your Nomadic Veteran blend in a Green Beret coffee mug. How's that?
Mate, I appreciate that. That's super.
We appreciate you. You supporting us, dude. It means the world to us, to be honest. And the one thing I'll say is, we're not the biggest coffee company, but what we have managed to create is a real loyal following with people who are like, wow, we love what you stand for. We love your coffee, and that means the world to us, to be honest. We've created a really great like-minded community. So, yeah, man, we're really pleased with it.
Well, let me ask you a question. This might seem a little bit controversial. So there is kind of like a stigma. Is it a stigma? I don't know. There are quite a few veterans that come out and they start up coffee companies, or they start something like that. And I know you're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. Is there kind of a stigma behind that? Is it like, and I don't want to sound this like detrimental to you, but do you think that it's kind of like an easy thing to people to get into, but then as you're going along, like you've been going now for quite a few years, it's quite difficult to maintain that forward drive with it too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those things, right, where before you get into it, you'll always think you can do it better. I've always said to do well, you've either got to be the first or you've got to be the best. Ultimately, when in most industries. And I think what a lot of lads do is they look at what's going on, they go, right, I can do that better. I'm a funny guy on Instagram. I can do hilarious posts and people will buy my coffee or whatever.
Yeah, and I get shit for that because I try and do funny posts and my missus hates it.
Oh, really? I mean, your posts are funny. I love them. So the one thing I'll say, right, is a lot of people always ask me, oh, you must hate the guys and women if they start coffee companies up. And it's like, dude, I don't hate them. I don't I don't look at what they're doing because I'm not interested in what they're doing. I'm more concentrated on what we're doing. And two, I don't hate them because the world is a really tough place. And I understand that they're just trying to make a living. They don't want to go to a job they fucking hate. All they're trying to do is create an income to provide for their family, to create a lifestyle which they're happy with. So they wake up in the morning and they're happy. So I don't hate them. I just wish maybe people should do a little bit more market research. If you actually took the time, did a bit of market research into it and went, wow, that industry might be a little bit saturated. It's going to be really hard for me to break into, and then two, like you said, to maintain any type of momentum. That's all we're asking, that's not all I'm asking. That's all I'm saying, should I say. It is a tough industry. That being said, there are quite a few coffee companies out there, but even if only veterans bought it, there's over 4 million veterans in the UK alone. There's enough business for everyone. So there's no reason to be salty towards each other. But that being said, I don't think there's need for any more coffee companies to appear on the scene. But I haven't got any ill will towards people starting coffee companies, apparel. Dude, we're all trying to make it. But yeah, it is hard to maintain it. That's a fair point. Yeah, I think you nailed it. It is. Yeah, nothing more to say on that, really.
I think with a lot of things like that, whether it's coffee or whether it's, and I know you started to get into a little bit of merch, T-shirts and hoodies, and you've got your mugs and your stickers and stuff like that. Having those sort of things, it is a really hard business to maintain because you need to be at the forefront of everything all the time. And if your brand name isn't getting out there, then you're not going to sell anything. So, having that presence and all constantly thinking of innovative ways to push that. I think sometimes people are very black and white, especially military people. And I know we're always taught to try and think outside the box, but I think sometimes that box is lead lined and it's really difficult to get out of the mainstream lines that you think it should go, where you should go, oh, do you know what? Let's go and throw it into, I don't know, just because we're talking about vegans, a vegan festival. And let's go and promote it there, or let's go and do it, I don't know, at a kid's birthday party, or I don't know, I'm just throwing shit out there, but you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah. What was the first bit of that ad? Sorry, mate.
I can't remember. I have to rewind it.
Oh, sorry, dude. I was listening to you and I was like, God, he's made a really great point there. And then I carried on listening to you. Yeah, thinking outside the box. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that was it. So the one thing I'd say there was, the old saying goes again, you can have the greatest product in the world, but if no one knows about it, you ain't going to sell anything. And I remember speaking to a guy years and years ago before we had the coffee company, and he said, and he works for a car dealership. I can't remember, it was in Shrewsbury somewhere. And he said every single day they're having to be on the radio, they're having to be on social media, because he said, if for a couple of days you don't post or you're not putting your name out there, people have got really short memories and they will soon forget to go to you to buy their car. And I was like, for some reason, it stuck in my mind when he said that. And it's so true. I've gone times where we haven't posted on social media or we haven't put a newsletter out for a number of days or even weeks. And all of a sudden you can see that it's like, whoa, people are forgetting about us. You've got to remain consistent. And that's, I guess that's a piece of advice I'd give to anyone who in any walk of life really, is like consistency. You've got to do it. And I'm as guilty as anyone, where sometimes I take my foot off the pedal for one reason or another. But yeah, consistency is, and like you said, thinking outside the box. I think being military, sometimes you are very sort of narrow-minded because you're in a foreign world with entrepreneurship, with running a business. But with that comes sometimes military guys can think so far out the box and do something completely wacky and crazy that it's absolutely genius. So it probably just comes down to the individual ultimately and their creativity.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm finding at the moment, and starting this podcast was probably really good for me, I think. I mean, one of the main reasons I really started doing it was because there were people like you out there that have got really cool stories, doing some really amazing things. And I'm not saying this in a bad way, but a lot of people don't really know about it. So I'd like to use this platform to try and push a little bit more content out, not just for those people, but also to tell those people stories. I mean, I've had some people on the podcast that are absolute legends. They would never write a book, then don't really boast about it, and all their stories and stuff are just going to go to their grave. And I think there's something really, really sad about that. And I didn't want that to happen. I'm sounding quite fucking high up on the pedestal here, but I don't mean it in that way.
No, I agree with you, dude. I think it's amazing, that there are so many people out there who do extraordinary things, because it's inspiring to other people. You hear it all the time why did you get into that certain thing? Because I watched this guy on YouTube, or I heard a story about this guy doing it, and it inspires them. And I think if people like you weren't hosting a podcast, and I'm not trying to be, self-promote here, but people like me weren't putting it on YouTube saying, look, you can still travel. There might be a pandemic, and it might be, whatever your thoughts on it, you can still travel. Life doesn't stop. You can still do this. If that wasn't out there in social media world, people wouldn't do it, and they wouldn't know, and they wouldn't have dreams and aspirations. So I think what you're doing, dude, is fantastic, to be honest.
And I think having a platform, everybody kind of like talks down social media like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube as being like quite detrimental, but it's also quite a positive thing, because gone are the days where, like, for instance, 10-15 years ago, if you started a coffee company, you would have to pay to put your advertisements in magazines, in newspapers, maybe the odd local like advertisement on the TV or something to actually get your name out there, where now you've got a platform or platforms where you can do it on your own, and it's free. You just have to put a little bit of time, a little bit of effort into it to make it different to everybody else, to make you an individual. And I think that's kind of cool about this too.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I think, like you said, it comes down, like we talked about before, consistency. Like, I don't know what your numbers were for your first podcast or your second podcast or your third podcast, but you could have been really disheartened and been like, what, only 4 people listen to this podcast? That's it. It's not going to work. I'm just going to sack it off, and it's a waste of time. There comes that consistency and that tenacity as well, which comes from, I think, a lot of, I'm always going to sort of like have a soft spot for bootnecks, but I think bootnecks have got that tenacity where you go, all right, it's not going my way yet, but if I just stick with it, it's gonna come that way. And social media, dude, I think social media is brilliant. Obviously, it's got its downsides, as we all know. But if you've got a healthy mental relationship with social media, and you know how to use it properly, I think it's brilliant. And like you say, it's free advertising. What's not to like about it?
We're talking a little bit about that. I'd really love to pick your brain about. So I know you've been traveling for the last couple of years, and you've been, editing YouTube videos and even working remotely. How have you found all of that? Because that must have been quite difficult. And here's another question, delving a little bit deeper. A secondary one is, how have you been able to do that, with your kit and equipment? Because I know I'm talking a lot here, but I tell you what, let's stick with the first question. How have you first started doing the YouTube channel, managed to do that while you're driving around?
So basically, doing YouTube at first was really difficult. It's quite an alien thing to pick up a camera and to point it at yourself and to talk. And when you first start it, you're really robotic as well. You're like, you've almost got like a bit of a persona, because you're trying to put something across, because you're opening yourself up. But the more you do it, the better you become. And then editing. When I first started editing, dude, geez, it would take me a full day at least to put a video together.
Editing, mate.
It was. We always said we wanted to release videos on a Sunday when we started. So I'd wake up early Sunday morning, and straight away I'd be like, right, I'm editing. My missus would be, just lashing me up with coffees all day, and it would literally take all day. And even then, it might not be ready. I'd have to go on the Monday. Sorry. So it's just, I think the secret for me, mate, is I love it. Like and that's definitely something I've moved into in terms of YouTube now, is Vlogging, yeah, I'm all right at vlogging. I'm myself now. Whereas if you went back and watched the very first one, I'm not saying that wasn't me, but I was a little bit more like, robotic, and that, even probably a monotone voice. Dare I say it? But now I'm trying to definitely move into, like, I want to create almost like little films, little movies with a positive message. And that's something I'm going into, where I'm like, right, I don't need to be in this as much. I want to tell a story. And because now I'm a lot more creative in my editing, and I love it. It genuinely, you get that creative. I don't know if you ever get this, ads. You get like a creator's high when you've done a piece of work, and afterwards you're really proud of it. And to get that piece of work, you've gone up and down. You're like, I can't do this, I'm shit. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, oh, I can do this, it's brilliant. And I go through that every time I edit. And then I'll get to the end and I'm like, yeah, I really love this. And then you put it out there. And that's where, again, we're talking about social media. To be on YouTube, you literally have to not give any fucks about how many times your video is going to be viewed. And that's taken me a long time to kind of get to that stage. I went through a really rough stage where I was putting my heart and soul into videos, and I would get, and for me, I would get maybe like a few hundred views, and I'd be really disappointed. I'd be like, but I've spent 7 hours editing this. Like, why can't people appreciate this? This is a good video. And it would put me in a bad mood. And then obviously, as a consequence, the next day, me and my missus would be like, she'd be like, Russ, you got to snap out. We're like, oh, I'll be threaders. But then I've slowly realized how to deal with it. But like, look, you're not doing it for other people. You're doing it for yourself. If you help a couple of hundred people, or you make their day better by watching your video, then, man, it's awesome. And now, if a video does well, brilliant. If it doesn't, you know what? It's great memories for me and my missus to watch back in 20 years' time when, I would say grey, but, when I'm a bit more bald and a bit more old. But yeah, it's yeah. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And I went through that stage as well. Like you say, the first few episodes I went out, I was like, why is no one listening to this? It's amazing.
Yeah.
But that, again, what I said at the very start, perceptions, it's your perception. And I didn't know how to advertise, or, little tricks how to push your episodes, or, your YouTube videos, which you learn as you go along. But also I found I was being very much sucked and absorbed into my phone and into my computer, and it was taking over my mind space. And I think it took a good couple of months before it just started to flow a little bit more. And yeah, go on.
Sorry, do you find, do you listen back to your earlier podcasts, and do you sometimes go, because at the time you were really happy, you were like, this stuff's amazing, why is no one listening to this? Do you listen back to them and go, God, I was terrible? Do you not do that? Then
when I very first started and I started editing, because obviously I'm listening to myself, I used to hate listening to my own voice because I'm from the Midlands. I'm a plastic brummie, from south of the M42.
Yeah.
I do have those very dulcet tones sometimes. Being a PTI, I fluctuate my voice here and there. I've learned that over time.
When it's needed, yeah.
When it's needed, yeah. So, and yes, it was quite difficult to start with. But then, like you said, once you get into it and you just start putting it out there, it's not really about how many people listen to it. You've got content that's out in the ether, not just around your local area. It's fucking global. You've got your YouTube video, anyone can watch that. Even if they search Nomadic, it's gonna come up with you somewhere in that search engine somewhere. So yeah, it was quite difficult, but like you say, you just kind of get used to it. And now I don't even look at my figures. Do you know what, right? I had a month and a half off, and I just released Tomo's podcast Monday this week. So this is going to be coming out in probably about a month and a half's time. So this is a little bit late. However, I did go back and start doing that again, like looking at my podcast stats. Oh, it needs to be at least up to such and such people downloads and stuff. And I'm like, do you know what? What does it matter? It has no financial reward. I don't get paid for this. I'm doing it off my own back because I enjoy doing it and enjoy talking to people like yourself. So, there's no financial reward to it. So why does it matter whether I get one person listen to it or fucking 50 million people listen to it? It makes no difference whatsoever.
Yeah, man. And like you say, even if it is just one person, you could have just changed their whole fucking day. They could have been having the worst day ever. And then, you know what? They put on the Grumpy Surfer podcast and it makes them happy. And it's like, brilliant, And so, like I say, my piece of advice to anyone doing podcasts and YouTube or whatever is don't get sucked into the downloads, the views, the thumbs up, the thumbs down, any negative comments. It's very easy to get, and as bootnecks, we're pretty thick-skinned, but there's been a couple of comments on certain videos of mine where it's kind of got to me and I've been like, motherfucker, but you've just got to just let it sort of like, flow over you. But yeah, just thick skin, I guess you need, and just remember why you're doing it.
I'm waiting for the stalkers. I am. I want some stalkers.
Fair one, dude. Well, to be honest, I'm still waiting for mine.
You don't stay still for very long, so you kind of like stuck in that situation where unless someone's is a multi-millionaire and is flying around the world following you, then
In that case, if they're a multi-millionaire, then I'll tell them where I am and they can come here and they might be able to sort me out. So yeah,
I'll drop a bag of cash on your doorstep.
Yeah, it's like, love what you're doing. There you go. Here's some cash. Yeah.
What sort of kit and equipment were you using? I mean, I know you did. Again, this is what I was kind of blabbering on about earlier. You did a YouTube video a while back with like your camera and all that sort of thing. But putting content out into the ether or into the internet, were you using like dongles? What sort?
Nah, dude. I was literally using my phone signal.
Oh really? Oh man, that must have absolutely caned it.
Yeah, well, yeah, it did. So luckily, I was on 3 at the time in Europe, and the reason I went with 3, right, because before we started traveling, I was with O2, and 3 had a really good offer, and they said unlimited, and I was like, well, that's what we need for traveling around Europe. It turns out when you're in Europe, it's not unlimited; it's 20 gig. So we would fly through this 20 gig really quick, but then, luckily or unluckily, they also did what's called a data passport. And it was £5 a day, and you could literally use as much as you want. So what we'd do is, when it came to upload day, we'd buy a data passport for £5, and then we would just like beast it, and we would upload as much as we could. We would download anything we wanted to, listen to podcasts or music or whatever, and then that would do us until the next like data passport day. So it did cost us more money, but it was like, you know what, it just had to be done. And again, like you said before, doing YouTube, we're trying to spread a message. We're also creating memories for ourselves, because even now we watch our old videos back and excuse me, we watch our old videos back, and it's great to watch it. It's one thing to have photos of these places you've been, but to actually have video, it's really great. So it's great memories for us. But obviously we would love to crack YouTube. We would love to be like, I don't know if you've ever heard of like Eamon and Beck. They're a couple of van lifers, mate. And they've got like 1 million subscribers and they get 600,000 views, and they're doing really well. And part of their success is they're doing well financially now. So obviously we would love to do well financially, but this is always just majority of the time being, we want to create memories. And, we went out there and we bought the kit, like you were talking about before. We bought the good camera, we've got the microphone, we've got the drone. Every YouTuber's got a drone these days, to be fair. And it's about making memories for us. But yeah, the internet has probably cost us a fair bit uploading stuff ever since we started.
Yeah, it can almost be like an endless pit. And I'm very guilty of comparisons a bitch, I think. You're talking about those people that have got, 1 million subscribers or whatever. And again, when we were talking about when I first started the podcast, I'd always try and compare. I would always compare myself to other people. So there are 2 other podcasts, surfing podcasts in the UK. You've got the UK Surf Show and the not Mindless Surfer, the Mindful Surfer podcast. I'd always compare myself to them. How much money were they spending on media? How much were they spending on sponsorship or, promoting it? I've spent nothing. I'm literally like doing this. I've got my podcast host. I bought my microphones and stuff, and now I'm editing it, and I know like they've got editors, and there's some Welsh guys that have got like producers and stuff, and I'm like, I'm nowhere near that level. I do a little intro, put my content out there, put it there. So I was always doing that, and it can almost, when we're talking about you get bogged down in it all, you're not really doing it for that, I don't think. And yeah, I found that quite difficult on top of everything else, your family and this and that. And this is more like let's be honest, it's more of a hobby than anything.
Yeah, man. I think you nailed it there. As soon as you start comparing to others, you're on a slippery slope. What's the saying? Compare and despair. And you never compare yourself to other people who have just started, or you never compare yourself to, other amateurs. You're always comparing yourself to, like, even with, talk about surfing or jiu-jitsu or anything. As an amateur, you'll always compare yourself to like the world champion. They're like, oh, of course you shit. He's a world champion. You're an amateur. And that's exactly the same as, when it comes to YouTube or podcasts. I wouldn't go and look at another person who's just started YouTube, be like, well, they got 20 views and I only got 10. Well, I'd go and compare myself to YouTubers who've been doing it for like 10 years and be like, why am I not getting those numbers? Well, because they've been doing it for 10 years and they're better than, their editing's better and they know how to vlog properly. So that comparison, mate, it's as soon as you start doing that, I think it sucks the fun out of it. And then as soon as it starts sucking the fun out of it, you don't want to do it anymore. Or if you do it, it's rubbish because people can tell that you're not being genuine, you're not being authentic, and you're not having fun. And then it just rolls into your views are shit because people can tell.
How are you finding your downtime at the moment? So you've taken 3 months in an Airbnb. It must be quite nice to have some amenities back again.
Dude, you wouldn't believe it. Fucking hell. I spend more time in the shower than anyone else in this Airbnb. It's great, mate. And, living in a van is like being in an OP, but for months on end. You've got very limited space with another human being. And obviously, we're married, so we love each other. But that's not to say sometimes I'm like, Jesus Christ, can you not move? And vice versa as well. It's hard work and you need a lot of patience and it makes you appreciate. And again, this sounds really, really cheesy, but it makes you appreciate running water. It makes you appreciate having a washing machine again. It makes you appreciate so many little things. That being in this Airbnb, mate, is just the fact I can swing my arms out and I'm not hitting anything is fantastic. In terms of downtime, and this is probably quite terrible to say, is we haven't really explored Tbilisi because we are trying to maximize our time in this Airbnb to get work done. So even, and a lot of people might say, well, why can you not get work done in a van? You can, absolutely. But because there's no structure to your day most days, because we are traveling, you also have to source water. You have to get rid of your black waste. You go to different shops all the time, and there's difficulties with that. Can you fit the van in? You're trying to find laundrettes. Are the laundrettes closed? Are they busy? Can you fit your van near to the laundrettes to carry all your dirty washing? It just sucks the time out of the day. So the beauty of the Airbnb is we've got a nice little routine. We don't have to worry about finding water, doing the washing. We can work. Like I say, it's a bit bad because we haven't explored Tbilisi as much as we should have yet, but we've still got time. But we do have downtime. Obviously, we have Netflix time, which is great. But yeah, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing here, mate, and trying to get work, because ultimately, to fund our lifestyle, we need to bring in an income as well. Otherwise, the dream is over as such.
Those Georgians are motherfuckers on the mats as well. Are you getting yourself down to any of the jiu-jitsu or judo academies?
Mate, that was one of the reasons we chose Tbilisi. Like, for anyone who doesn't know, when you come into Georgia, you get a year's visa. Instead of like a lot of places like 3 months and then you can't really settle. So the reason we chose Tbilisi is they've got a really good jiu-jitsu club here called Legion. And the plan was get here, throw myself into it. Unfortunately, I've had a bit of a chest infection this pretty much the whole time here. And with the current state of affairs that the world is going through at the moment, even though I know that it's not anything worse than that, it's not the Rona, it is a chest infection. I don't want to sort of go down there because for people, in a heightened state of, what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't want to alertness, should I say? Yeah. Yes. So it's just a case of I haven't been able to do much as in terms of fizz or get myself on the mats, which is kind of annoying because, like I said, we chose this place. My missus is really, really great. She went, look, Tbilisi's got a really good jiu-jitsu club. Let's go there for you. Because she knows we haven't been able to surf in Turkey. We've not been able to surf in Greece. So she did me a solid. And my way of returning the favor was getting ill. So, yeah, I've got...
I bet she loves that.
Yeah, she's like, God damn you. Yeah, so it's hopefully in the next week or so, I'll be able to crack it. Thank you, Gibbo.
So here's the timeless question. Where are you going and what is the end game?
Oh, mate, if I knew that, jeez. So the issue we've got at the moment is we can't really head any more further east now. Turkmenistan is essentially closed. So we can't get there because the plan was to travel the world. We really wanted to get to India. And then from India, I really wanted to get to Indo. But with Turkmenistan for obvious reasons, you know, with Turkmenistan being closed, being the first hurdle, never mind further on as you get to China and the struggles you'll have there. We've got Armenia, which we could do. We could stay in Georgia. We've got like another 11 months left if we want to. The winters here can be quite brutal. I'm not sure we quite want to do that in a van. And we're also getting to that stage now where we're kind of like, we love being nomadic, but we're also thinking it would be really great to have a bolt hole somewhere. Like we don't want to go back into normal suburbia and have a whatever that phrase is, a normal house. But we would like a bolt hole somewhere. So we are looking online and we're like, right, we can't progress east. Let's maybe turn around. Let's look what we've got here. Let's consolidate for a little bit. And then once things maybe start opening up again, we can jump back in the van. You know, everyone always thinks you've got to do this trip now. You're doing it now. You've got to get it done now. It's like, hang on. I'm hoping that I'm around for a good 20, 30 years longer. This trip has got no time, like expiry date on it. So let's, you know, if we need to consolidate for the time being, get a nice little bolt hole somewhere, then so be it. So we might be heading back east in it relatively soon, depending on what we can see, what we can find.
So what happens when you get to Indo and China? What happens then? Have you thought that far ahead?
We haven't, mate. Well, you know, I always had this dream, or not always, clearly, but like the last couple of years, I always had this image of getting to India. India would be a great place to go spiritually wise. You know, spending a lot of time there, and then going down to Indo for obvious reasons. And then I'd always had this kind of like hope that we could somehow get to Canada, drive down Canada, through America, and then do South America, obviously Mexico, Ecuador, all that good stuff. And then maybe we always hoped that we would find somewhere where we just felt like maybe one day we'd just go there and be like, this is home. Like we never want to leave. And whether that place was Mexico or Indo, or dare I say it, probably not China, but India or somewhere, then that was the dream. And who knows, that might still happen. But at the moment, I just feel like the way the world is kind of going really crazy, I just want to have a little safe zone as well, a piece of land to call home as well, to maybe retreat to if things go a little bit peaked on, you know?
So what are the kind of future plans? I know I watched your last YouTube video and you mentioned you got a few things in the pipeline, and obviously your missus works remotely as well. Have you got anything that you wanna divulge, and you know what are you both up to? Okay,
so obviously we've got the coffee company and that's going really well. We're trying to, you know, the community, like I said, I bang on about it because I'm really proud of it actually. So we've got the coffee company and the community we've managed to forge there. Obviously, we've got the Nomadic Veteran, which, you know, is a massive passion project. As we touched on before, briefly, the podcast, I've just started a podcast. One which no doubt will maybe ruffle a few feathers, maybe not. I'm not sure how it'll be perceived. It's called Those Vegan Veterans Podcast. You know, we'll see how that goes. It's something I'm very excited about because that's something I'm really passionate about again. I've got another YouTube channel in the making. I can't really go into too much detail because that would spoil the fun. But it's something because I really genuinely love creating videos now, YouTube's a really great place for me to do that. Because I love it. Like, you know, like I said, I enjoy creating these little movies with a positive message, or, you know, putting something out there which will help people. So that's where I'm at. And then my wife Gibbo, yeah, she's got some really exciting stuff. She's working on illustrations. She's got some really cool shit going down. Yeah, it's an exciting time for us. We're really excited, and I just hope it all works out, to be honest, which I'm sure it will.
Mate, talking to you and knowing where you've come from and where you are now is quite inspirational, I think. And I hope if people listen to this and listen to your story, that, you know, it might inspire them just to kind of like get away from the rat race a little bit and, you know, go and do something that they really want to do. Because I'm quite internally passionate about people not following the things that they want to do and having to think they have to go to their factory job or something like that because they've got to make ends meet. You know, they've got this lifestyle that they've got to maintain, and the only way they can do it is by doing something that they don't really enjoy doing. And I'm not about that, you know. And I think what you're doing is quite inspiring, because, you know, you're doing what you want to do when you want to do, but you're also still earning a living to be able to travel and do those sort of things. So I think, you know, kudos to you, mate.
Thank you. That means a lot. You know, I think you know, without going off on one again, I think this is the greatest time to be alive, and yet we've never seen mental health at lowest. And I think when you take a step back and you actually look at why is this? Why are people so threaders with their lives at the moment? It's because we've been sold a lie. Essentially, we've been sold a lie that you need to have the awesome car every 3 years. Get a brand new car. Why? To impress who? Like, most people don't even like care about driving, but they need to have a fancy car. Just, you know, they're trying to impress people who, you know, they're saying they don't even like half the time. So I just feel like if people stop buying into the materialistic bullshit of what we're getting sold, and they actually go, what actually makes me happy? Yeah, you might be earning 50 grand a year, but does that make you happy? No. But if you did a job which you loved and you were earning 30 grand, can you still provide for your family? Can you still chase your dreams? Fucking do that. But people are hesitant to do that. So, you know, that's something I think you've nailed it, mate. If we can, you know, if we can spread the message of that, then I think hopefully one or two people might even listen and go for it.
Mate, on that note, it's been amazing talking to you, and hopefully, you know, when you start moving on in the next 6 months to a year, we can do it again and catch up.
Dude, that would be awesome. And like I said before, man, it was absolute honor that you asked me to be on here. It's honestly, I was made up when you asked. I was like, has he got me on a bite? And but it turned out to be Jen. So no, mate, I loved it. Thank you very much, Ads. I really appreciate it.
And where can people find your shit? So the coffee, the YouTube channel, and all that sort of stuff. Where can they find it?
All right, all my shit is on all my shit. So if you are looking for some damn good coffee, I will say the best coffee around, freshly roasted coffee. That'll be at Green Beret Coffee Co on Instagram, Facebook. Website is greenberetcoffee.co.uk. If you are interested in sort of what I'm doing or what we're doing, because the YouTube channel does obviously have my wife in sporadically. She's a bit camera shy at the best of times, and my two dogs. That's at the Nomadic Veteran, and that's on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. And if you are interested in maybe listening a little bit about a couple of ex-military guys who've gone vegan, why, trying to dispel a few myths about the whole veganism thing, we're on Instagram and Spotify, Those Vegan Veteran Podcast. Those Vegan Veterans Podcast. Jeez, I can't remember my own name. That's how new it is. But yeah, you know what, give it a listen. Let us know your thoughts. Even if you want to, you know, ask a question about it, fire a question over and we'll be happy to chat.
And I'll put all of these links into the notes as well, in the show notes, so people can click on them and go straight to it.
Legend. Appreciate it, dude. Thank you.
Russ, it's been amazing talking to you, and thank you very much for your time.
Geezer, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, mate.
Laters, dude.
And that's it. If you're enjoying the podcast, please like, share and subscribe on your podcast provider, and also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks for listening.